The New York Times almost destroyed his career. The New York Times called Goddard a fraud, a fake, because rockets cannot move in outer space, said the New York Times. There's no air to push against. Therefore, it's impossible to move outside the planet Earth. And Goddard dreamed of going to the moon. The moon is 250,000 miles away. Even when his rockets work, they humiliated him. One time he launched a rocket successfully, and the local newspaper said, Robert Goddard's rocket misses the moon by 250,000 miles. You can't win. But why was he inspired to go up against the New York Times? Why did he do this? Because when he was a child, he read a novel, War of the Worlds, and he was hooked. All of a sudden he realized that perhaps Mars could be our destiny. Perhaps one day rockets will go to Mars. Another scientist who was into science fiction was Carl Sagan. When Carl Sagan, the astronomer, was a young kid, he read the John Carter of Mars series, and he was hooked. He said, yes, we're going to go on to Mars. And then, more recently, Asimov wrote the Foundation trilogy about the rise of a galactic civilization, somewhat similar to the Star Wars series. And as a consequence, Elon Musk said, we want to become a multi-planet species after reading that book. I read that book too. And you dream about what it would take to become a galactic civilization. That, of course, is science fiction. But the question is, how far can we push this technology? Well, first of all, why even think about leaving the Earth at all? No one is saying we should leave the entire Earth. There are too many people on the Earth. It'd be too expensive. But we are talking about having an insurance policy in case of self-inflicted wounds like global warming, nuclear proliferation, germ warfare, or natural disasters like asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, ice ages, even the sun. The sun will one day turn against the Earth. 5 billion years from now, it is a law of physics that the sun will eat up the Earth. The Bible says, from dust to dust, ashes to ashes. We physicists say, from stardust we came, and stardust we will return. And just remember, the point I'm raising is, the dinosaurs did not have a space program. And that's why they're not here today. How come we don't have dinosaurs attending this book tour? Because the dinosaurs faced the ultimate catastrophe. Now, we have self-inflicted catastrophes like global warming. Now, I'm not saying that we should go to Mars to avoid global warming. We should cure global warming on the Earth. It's a political problem, a problem that we have to cure on the Earth, because the glaciers are receding, the polar ice caps are thinning about 1% per year. Definitely, we experience global warming. So we're not going to leave the Earth to escape global warming. No, politically, we're going to have to get our own shop in order. However, as I said before, the dinosaurs did not have a space program. And asteroid collisions are something we do have to worry about. Because 65 million years ago, here's a dinosaur that said, uh-oh. The other dinosaur is saying, oh, shit. There goes the neighborhood. Yes, if you were a dinosaur and you looked up and this is what you saw, it's not going to be a pretty sight, because the age of dinosaurs ended. And who rose up in the ashes? We did. We want to make sure that we don't go the same way. Now, a city buster hits the Earth every 100 years. 2 of them hit Russia in 100 years. One hit Chelyabinsk just a few years ago, and the other one hit Siberia. And so two city buster impacts capable of knocking out London or Berlin hit the Earth every 100 years. Nation busters hit the Earth every few thousand years. Why don't we see them? Because they hit the oceans for the most part. And because of that, we don't necessarily record nation busters, but they do hit the Earth. And then we have planet busters. Every 50 million years, the dinosaurs get wiped out. And so that's why we need an insurance policy. And there's also a problem of a super volcano. This is Yellowstone National Park as you've never seen it. We're not talking about Yogi Bear. We're talking about a super volcano underneath Yellowstone that could one day rip the guts out of the United States of America. This volcano is capable of destroying this country. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because 75,000 years ago, another supervolcano erupted in Indonesia, the Toba volcano, and probably killed most human beings. You realize that we are almost clones of each other? If I take any two animals, I find they're quite separated genetically. You take any humans, any two humans, and we are almost twins of each other compared to the animals. This means that something happened 75,000 years ago. We're not sure what. Something happened to wipe out almost all human beings. How many survived that catastrophe? A few hundred, maybe 1,000. They escaped to the Middle East and they went on to populate the earth. Now this is incredible. I mean, think about this. Only a few hundred to maybe 1,000 humans escaped whatever catastrophe hit us 75,000 years ago to populate the entire planet Earth. It could happen again. We think it was the Toba volcano, and so we're all brothers and sisters, literally, of something that happened 75,000 years ago. But now we had the first era of space exploration. The Cold War was in full glory. We had to beat the Russians. But in 1966, the NASA budget was 5% of the total federal budget. That's unsustainable. You cannot have 5% of the entire federal budget go to the moon program. So it collapsed. But now we're witnessing the second golden age of space exploration, where taxpayers are not necessarily funding it. This is the Falcon Heavy rocket by Elon Musk, financed by private funds. This is a private moon rocket, fully capable of sending a space capsule around the moon. And so we're talking about a new era where space travel is partially funded by private enterprise, by the generosity and of course searching for profits of Silicon Valley billionaires. Not only this is the moon rocket. He wants to build an even bigger one to go to Mars. The next bigger rocket is called the BFR. The BFR, a gigantic rocket. B stands for big. R stands for rocket. And I'm not going to tell you what the F stands for, because this is a family show. But NASA, not to be outdone, is proposing its moon rocket. Can you imagine that? 2 moon rockets? We have 2 rockets fully capable of sending 4 astronauts around the moon. This is the SLS booster rocket, and NASA even has a timetable. The president announced in December a timetable. Well, he announced that we are going to go to the moon, go to Mars, and here